What up, everybody? We are back. And we have Jonathan in the studio today, who has welcomed our a new little bambina into the world. Curious to know what that's been like. I myself have 3 kids. Mike has 2. So we've been in the trenches. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Tell me about it, man. What's going on? What's new?
Well, everything's new, I guess you'd say. It is a complete world changer.
Oh, yeah. Don't you love, by the way, time out. I know I'm going to cut you off here, but and it's real early, but don't you love how your buddies are, or prior to this world changer, there was absolutely no conception of what this world change would actually be, and
none.
None, right?
None. You can't. We were talking about this the other day. You can't prepare for it. There's nothing. No matter what someone says, like you just can't fathom. Mm-hmm. Like the good and bad difference is part of it. Like you just can't fathom.
Nothing can prepare you for
any part of it.
No. I remember. I mean, look, I'm not gonna lie. My wife took the brunt of it, but I just remember thinking, fuck, how much extra time did I have?
Yeah.
That I just didn't realize I had, just even like to sit down and watch a Netflix show. Like at this point in my life to do that, it doesn't happen until after 10 p.m. And really, I should be catching up on sleep at that time.
Yeah.
But what do you got? She's got you up all night.
Yeah, it's funny because you do. You think you're so busy, and then all of a sudden you have the kid, and you realize that
you didn't know what busy was.
You have to make so much more time.
Oh yeah.
I mean it's amazing. Like she's now there. Like she's now part of your family. Your family just went from 2 to 3. So that's all like an amazing feeling. That's really cool. You stare at her, and she stares back at you.
Yeah.
And it's like the best feeling in the world.
I still, even now, sometimes I come home, I'm like, these 3 kids are mine. And my oldest daughter's 4. So it's, I don't know. I can't explain it. It's an interesting total life change. The time commitment, the lack of sleep, that ends, and then you forget about it, and then you have another, and you go right back down that road. But yeah, man, I remember having high aspirations of like wanting 5 kids, like because I have an aunt that had 5 kids, and their house was like the house to be when we were growing up and all that good stuff. It was fun. But then you start having them, it's like, Jesus Christ, this is insane.
Yeah, I wanted 4. I think I'm down to 3 now.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Each one's just going to chop that tree down slowly.
I think I'll stay at 3, but we'll see.
And then once you get to 2, you're going to be like, let's pump the brakes a little before 3. It's
Well, I think we're pumping the brakes a little now. We're
before 2,
let her grow up a little bit, and then we'll see.
What about you, Mike? You gonna go for more or what?
Yeah, definitely. I think the best thing you could do is give them a sibling. They play. It's like they're best friends. They play together. They have so much fun. Yeah. And you want them to be somewhat close in age, in my opinion, at least, because then
you don't want that straggler. You don't want the straggler. You don't want that third kid that's like 4 years removed from the older 2, who's like strange and odd and some.
They have to be strange and odd.
Yeah. Well, think about it. You have these 2 that are kind of grouped together, that they're sort of going through the same things as life goes on. Mm-hmm. And then this third one is kind of doing it all alone. So believe it or not, like the personality profiles of the 2 are probably much more similar than that third.
Yeah.
Right? Or the latter 2, let's say. I mean, if you think about it, my personality profile and Daniela's is very different than the other 2, right? Yeah, so you kind of get this dichotomy that changes as time goes on because it's different.
Yeah, I don't know about the personality, but for me, I could see it both ways. So if you wait a little bit, it's definitely easier because your older kids are a little more independent. They're not babies. Having 2 under 2 or 2 under 3 or 3 under 4, whatever it is tough. So I could see it that way, but also like if you're in the trenches, as you said, and you got the diapers and the bottles and they're all out, then just keep it going. I don't want to put the bottles and the diapers away and then have to go back to it. So
But
it's out. Let's go.
It's like
ride
getting
it
hit
out.
with the Moab bomb, though, for 5 years. That's how you feel. That's literally what it's like. Awesome.
We get used to it. You get in a groove.
Yeah. Speaking of which, you're headed to Disneyland, man.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, what are the I mean, I haven't even thought about Disneyland in 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, explain to me, like, what the plan is, how it's all shaping up, and what's even there these days. I don't even know.
Basically, my father-in-law just went ahead and he didn't even talk to anyone. He just booked a house in Orlando. He rented a house in Orlando. This is a few months ago. And he's like, I'm going to take everyone to Disneyland. And then he got everyone flights and he bought the tickets. So, the whole trip's on him, which is great. We're appreciative of, because I wouldn't have just booked a trip like that. Not because of the money, but I just wouldn't have done it. I'm busy.
I've heard of people going to Disneyland just their particular family, but not with help. Like you're going with the extended family, and the park is apparently like a little insane. It's very busy, and you have kids that just take off in multiple directions because one kid sees Buzz Lightyear, the other kid sees Cinderella, and the next thing you know, your wife, everyone's chasing everyone. So you're doing it right with the extended family, because everyone's going to have eyes on the kids and you could actually kind of enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
But from what I understand, and I've spoken to a few people, everyone says the kids absolutely love it, over the moon about it, and it's an insane adventure for them. But from the parent standpoint, you and Sam might need another vacation after this vacation.
I think it'll be good. I'm optimistic. So we're flying out tonight, and then we're there till Friday. So it's like 5 days. I think we're there. And then so Disney, what it is, they have 4 parks. They have Animal Kingdom, Magic Kingdom, Epcot, and one more. And each park is a whole different, Hollywood Studios maybe, that might be the 4th one. So then we got tickets for 3 days. So only got tickets for 3 days. And then like Orlando has tons of stuff. They have a Lego museum. You could do like crocodile things, and there's all sorts of stuff in Orlando to do. So we'll, a couple days we'll relax.
What's probably
do whatever.
awesome is the Animal Kingdom.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Just going in there and seeing like a silverback gorilla just walk up.
Well, there's the safari, and then there's also rides in Animal Kingdom, and there's shows in all of them. I mean, I don't know. I haven't been since I was a kid, but we got these fast passes, so you can go. There's an app. You go online and you can book like an hour time slot that you're going to show up and be able to cut the line.
Yeah.
And then, but like all the good rides, like there's this Avatar ride I really wanted to do.
Tell me about that.
So I was listening to the Joe Rogan podcast, and he said it's basically the best ride in existence, like the best ride ever. And apparently it is, because it's even the fast passes are sold out, because you can't just obviously there's a limited number of those. You can't just let everyone cut the line at 12 p.m. That won't work.
Yeah.
So, but apparently it's virtual reality. So like the most high tech virtual reality you can do. I mean, I imagine Disney didn't cheap out on buying their virtual reality system.
No, probably not.
And you hop on this thing that's like a motorcycle, and you put the virtual reality headset on, and then they have like fans will blow air on you, and they have
sick.
water that'll shoot on you, and the motorcycle thing goes in a way where you feel like you're riding on the back of one of those big birds in Avatar, whatever that is.
With Avatar would plug the hair.
And apparently it's super real.
Connected through Iwa.
Apparently it's super real, and it's just awesome. So, I mean, I wanted to do that, but there's no fast passes available. So we'll see. If there's one day like I feel like waiting online for 4 hours,
Do it.
maybe I'll go for it.
Hell yeah, do it.
But otherwise, next time.
So here's what I will tell you about virtual reality. My brother-in-law has the Oculus Rift, and I didn't realize how badly that tricks your brain to the point that you could get completely lost in that thing. And when you're like, so there's a few things. The game that really screwed me up with my spatial balance and everything was one in which you had the headset on and you were in this stadium, and across from you was another guy, and it was kind of like Pong, except the way it worked was you had these hand things on that you would click, and that was the remote, and then you had the headset, and if you leaned left, your Pong would shift left. If you leaned right, your Pong would shift right. But you had to catch the ball and throw it back at the guy. So imagine you're in a stadium, you're leaning left, you're leaning right to keep the ball that the guy's throwing at you from coming past you, but dude, I was falling on the floor in real life, crashing into walls. It completely throws you off to the point where you have zero clue what is going on around you. But it is cool because, like, for instance, you could throw that headset on and like you could do things where you climb like a rock mountain and you look down and you're high and it's like, oh shit. There's also a flight simulator supposedly where you could fly like an F-16 and it tricks you that you're there. So I could only imagine, like, if you combined that with the wind and like the water spraying
and you're on a thing that's moving.
Totally. Probably have a complete.
They have the
anxiety.
It's safe to say technology has progressed to the point that, like, the human mind is just not even capable of dealing with it. I mean, it'll completely trick you.
No, well,
that's it. You don't stand a chance.
They say in Japan that they're having an issue with like population decline, and the reason is because the Japanese culture, they're very much involved in electronics, video games, and immersive stuff like that. That they're not reproducing.
They're too busy just sitting home playing video games.
They play video games. They don't want to reproduce. I swear to God. Look it up. It's an interesting fact. But awesome, man. So you're getting your sleep. You're going on your vacation. And all else is good, man. How about those Pats?
Wow.
Right?
I mean, as a New Yorker, I can't say I was happy about it. Yeah. I don't think there's not many. You might be one of the few New Yorkers that was rooting for the Patriots. Although I will say,
yes. So,
I will say when I was growing up, the Cowboys were the dynasty. So there were a lot of New Yorkers who were kids. Elementary school, junior high, who, when you're at that age, it's easy to be a front runner, who are Cowboy fans. And what I noticed was a lot of younger kids now, and when I say younger and kids, I mean like college students or kids that have just graduated college, there's New Yorkers that are Pats fans. And it's because, and I said to one of them, Paul works for us. He's 22 or whatever, and I said, he's like, I'm a Pats fan. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, you're just a front runner. You were a little kid.
He doesn't
and the
know
Pats
he's
are winning Pats are winning a bunch of Super Bowls, and you became a front runner.
He's been indoctrinated.
Yeah, so maybe there are.
That's it. He's not a front runner.
There's a younger New York generation maybe.
That's actually
there's something about Boston and New York though.
Because remember how many Cowboy fans there were when we were growing up? And it's like, you're a New Yorker. Why would you be a Dallas Cowboy fan? It was because they were good in the 90s. They had Emmitt Smith, Troy Aikman. They won. Right? It was a cool team.
Remember that?
And
that's
why.
Best, I think they had the best offensive line. Like their offensive line averaged like 375 pounds. So a few guys over 400 pounds on that offensive line.
Jesus.
Of muscle.
If you're from a state and you like I understand if you've moved state to state, but if you're from New York, I don't understand how you can be fan of another sports team. The only explanation to me is you're a front runner, or maybe there's like a specific player that you really love. Like when I was in elementary school, I did a report on Barry Sanders. So I quasi became like a Detroit Lions fan. So like I'll still root for the Lions, but I'm still a New York fan first.
So I'll explain why. For me, I'm not a fan of any one particular team, but if I had to put a finger on it, I'm actually a fan of the Denver Broncos, and I'll explain why. So I got involved with fantasy football too early, and I started putting money into these leagues and drafting players, so I innately started rooting for individual players instead of the team themselves.
Yeah.
So it just kind of never caught on with me.
That makes sense to me. I can understand that.
You know what I mean? But when I was younger, I used to be a fullback, and I played football, and I used to love running backs. This is when they actually used running backs in football. Today they don't even use them. They just drop back and throw. You know,
the running backs are running routes more than they're
exactly. But back then, Terrell Davis was the man.
Yeah. And
Terrell Davis was like my guy. So I was, and that's when they had Troy Aikman and not Troy Aikman. Elway and Shannon Sharp and Romanowski was on the team, right? Bill Romanowski.
Nutcase.
Yeah. Didn't he end up screwed up? Something happened later on in life?
Yeah. I think he has like no mental capacity anymore.
What do you mean? He's just out of his killing
From
people?
CTE from.
I think he was just out of his mind. Yeah, I think from there, from football, pretty much straight out.
That's unfortunate.
Well, you know what worries me about the whole thing is they started doing a lot of research into CTE, and what they're talking about is it's not even the big hits, like the big concussion hits. It's the little dings
repeatedly
along the way. And I mean, I stopped playing football in high school, and I could tell you every Saturday after a game, I walked off that field with a headache, a migraine headache, to the point where going out Saturday night and getting hammered at whoever was throwing the party was like, I didn't even want to do it because I didn't feel well.
Yeah.
And there was a few times I took some nasty hits. There was one time we played, so me, Pat, and Einig played up in 10th grade, and I remember our first scrimmage was against Sachem, and Sachem has, at that time it wasn't East and West, it was just Sachem, and they had 1,500 kids per graduating class. Long story short, I threw myself sideways at two guys on a field goal because I instead of picking the inside man, I just threw myself sideways at him. The kid's knee ran through my head to the side, and my feet went numb for 10 seconds. But why did I do that? Because I was always, up till that point, I was always probably the heaviest guy on the field, or one of the biggest guys on the field. So I was running through people. But then when you start hitting other people that are your size or bigger, you're like, oh, this ain't right. It's literally like running into a wall.
So let me ask you, would you let, and I know your son has the heart condition, but that aside, would you let your kids play football?
Absolutely not, and I regret playing football. Because I sincerely think I'd be 10 IQ points high.
I think it's a lot for a kid who's developing still. That's a beating to take. And I'm not, if you want to let your kid play football, fine, you should. I mean, I think sports is good. I think football teaches a lot of valuable life lessons.
All sports do.
And football players, they learn a lot from that helps them be successful in life. But I mean, personally, I don't think I would let my kids do it. It's just, I feel like you're just risking too much.
It's just, so interestingly enough, I have a nephew, we have a nephew who is in 7th grade now. The enrollment for football is way down.
Yeah.
And they're playing volleyball.
The enrollment for volleyball is way up.
Yeah, there was 70 kids that tried out for the male volleyball team. Figure that one out.
That's weird. I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't know how I feel about it either, but it's happening.
Are there volleyball leagues? Can you...
Mike, I have no idea.
No, it's his first time playing volleyball.
So it's just school volleyball.
Yeah.
I mean, that's cool. Volleyball, I always had fun playing volleyball when I was a kid, especially beach volleyball. That's fun.
Yeah.
Supposedly Long Beach has the best team on the island.
Oh yeah, because they
Long
all
Beach
hang out
have
on the beach.
leagues, legit adult leagues.
That's you know what, it is fun. It's just, I mean, that's a whole different world from when we grew up.
Can you see playing there
with us? It was football, it was soccer, it was lacrosse and baseball. It wasn't, and then wrestling. The weirdos kind of wrestled.
Basketball, there's basketball,
yeah. I don't know. It's weird though, man. I would have never guessed that would happen. I would think that maybe a flag football might come about.
Well, we have a cousin that plays flag football, in a flag football league. I mean,
yes, but in high school,
that won't get big.
You don't think
it'll
so?
never get big.
No, because that's not football. It takes away from some of the best parts of football.
It makes it more. So I was never the fastest. Never could jump the highest. But I will smack the shit out of you.
You played violently.
Yes.
That's why you would have headaches, because you played the game violently.
I played the game violently. But in flag football, I'm good for nothing.
Well, that's...
Can't catch, can't run.
In real football...
I could throw, not accurately, but I could
good, that's
I could throw the ball.
Great quarterback.
Yeah, exactly.
The good players in flag football are probably not good players in... Real football, and the good players in real football probably have, except running backs, is if you're fast
you're
and everything.
A sick receiver,
but, a guy like you in real football, the skills you were using in real football and made you really good do not apply.
Yeah, no, I was good for 3 yards in a pile of dust. That's it, and I could hit someone on defense. But
football. I mean, the reason football's so popular now is strictly gambling.
Yeah.
That's the number one reason
Fantasy
people watch
gambling.
football is gambling. Not even fantasy is huge, but just gambling in general. People put money on the games and they bet on the games. It's so. And I mean, the experience from watching a game at home on a TV, now these TVs are 60, 80 inches.
It's better. It's better.
You're in your house. It's warm, especially in the Northeast
they have
here.
cameras 10 feet over their heads.
Yeah, you could pause, you could rewind. You got whatever beers, any food you want. I mean, the experience is so good in your house that. I mean, I don't know. I think football will always be a sport that's around. I don't think it's going anywhere, but it's
supposedly the numbers are down, but that supposedly
numbers are also down here in the Northeast.
Yes,
college football's bigger.
No, the numbers of viewing are down on TV, but they also say the numbers on TV in general are very much down because everyone's streaming.
Yeah, I mean, I don't watch games anymore. I rarely watch a game, but I'll follow on my phone. I'll
tell you what was revolutionary when it came out was Red Zone.
Yes.
That was like, holy shit, this is football on steroids.
I don't like Red Zone.
Really?
I can't. I get overwhelmed and I get uncomfortable.
Well, that's the point.
I get anxious because I want to see everything rather than, you don't get to actually enjoy the game.
Yeah.
Like I played through college, so I actually like watching football. I like watching it, the games. I don't mind when it's defensive, or I don't mind when there aren't a lot of scores. So I just get overwhelmed trying to watch too many screens at once, too many things. Yeah. I just like if the Jets are on, I'll watch the Jets, and that's it. I don't even think about changing the channel.
I don't like how technology in the world today just
overloads us.
Well, they cater to people's short attention span. They cater to people just not. Yeah, because I agree with you. I mean, it's like people, their attention span is zero these days. They don't want to watch the game between the 20s. It's just when they get into the red zone, all right, let me see the highlights. It's so it's I don't know and what's going to happen with football when the generation now that's playing volleyball, right? They're certainly not going to be interested in watching football.
No. I think what's going to happen is the model's going to have to change at some point, right? Maybe some kind of subscriber thing. They already kind of have that though, right? With
NFL Network.
Yeah, I mean, if TV viewership is down, and
well, how does the NFL? So it's all about money. How does the NFL make their money? They make their money based on people coming to games
and advertisers,
viewership on TV, right? So selling advertise. So
merchandise,
so people, and then merchandise. Yeah, those are the three ways. So
the model's going to have to change. They even say the pay-per-view model, for these UFC fights, that's got to change because the pay-per-view numbers are way down. So they're trying to do an app streaming thing. Everyone's trying to change the models because the supposedly the only place where you could spend advertising dollars that actually makes sense is on the Super Bowl. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the only time all of America
because people actually watch the commercials there. They're not fast forwarding through. They're not.
I mean, other than the Super Bowl, maybe the State of Union address when Donald Trump is addressing the nation, how many people are actually tuning in at that time to see what's going on?
Right.
But they could always catch it later.
Can you envision a day where there's no football in the future just because financially they can't run the league?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if, let's say, if the ad dollars go down, right, and then they can't pay the players as much, that'll drive people away from that sport. And then maybe in the future, but I mean, it's such an 800-pound gorilla that we're talking about in 50 years.
I think that'll be good for soccer. So I was a soccer player, right? And so the U.S. on the world stage, the U.S. is not even close to being able to compete for a World Cup championship. But the reason is because our best athletes, and listen, I was a soccer player. I respect soccer players, and there's some amazing athletes playing soccer. But our best athletes in the world are not playing soccer. Imagine LeBron James.
Yeah.
Instead of playing basketball since the age of 3, had a soccer ball at his feet.
Yeah.
Right? That guy running around on the soccer field since he was 3, as fast, as quick, as high as he could jump, everything else.
Who even plays soccer that's American? I mean, I know of Cristiano Ronaldo, and that's about it.
American player? I mean, I don't follow the MLS, but there's American players.
Are we ranked high?
No. There's Landon Donovan who's the big player. And
there was one 20-year-old kid. He just got signed to a big contract in a Premier League team, I think in England. And this is the first time in he's the highest paid American player overseas ever. And he's like 20 years old.
The problem for America is in other countries, for the most part, there's other sports in other countries, obviously, but in other countries, soccer is the biggest sport. So the best athletes usually end up playing soccer. In America, the best athletes are playing baseball, basketball, football, right? They're playing other sports. And some of the best athletes are playing soccer too, but they're they're spread out. Whereas in the other country, it's mostly they're going to soccer. That's my opinion. I mean, this isn't a fact, but if you had our best athletes playing soccer,
now that I'm thinking about it, though, the MLS, are there people like?
The MLS is huge. You ever go to an MLS game?
Never.
Fans go nuts.
Yeah, I'm sure. But here's my question. So, for instance, is there always like an international league going on?
Yes.
So, okay, so
there's different international leagues.
So, you know how like Arizona is going to play New York, and the Arizona Cardinals have to fly across the country, and it's a 6-hour flight. Like, are they flying from Brazil? How often do they have games?
Well, there's different leagues. There's like the Premier League. There's the John, you probably know, it's like the Spanish Premier League,
La Liga.
Yeah, so there's different. So each country has their
Serie A for like the Italian league.
Each country has a professional.
So it's called La Liga. Yeah.
Oh god! When I snowbird later on in life, you're coming to South Florida with me. We're gonna go see some La Liga. But
let's get back to the Pats, though.
Pats.
So how do you explain what Brady got drafted in 2000? How do you explain a 19-year dynasty? Is that because that doesn't happen often? Is it just luck? Did they just happen to have the right piece? They got Brady, they got Belichick, and they happen to have the right pieces, or
it's the great debate.
Or is this something that people can learn from, and maybe another franchise can do it again? Maybe there'll be another 19-year dynasty. And listen, with the division the Pats are in, they got every year they're automatically in the playoffs. I mean, they're not the Bills, the Jets, the Dolphins. They're not. Every year the Pats are going to be in the playoffs at least, and then even within the AFC, they're likely to get a bye. So usually it's 2 games, right, to be in the Super Bowl. Right. If not win 3 games and you're in the Super Bowl.
I think the past 12 years they've been they're the NFC, right? They've been
AFC.
They've been in the AFC Championship.
I think the last 4 years straight they've been in the Super Bowl, right?
The last,
I think,
9 years they've been in the Super Bowl and they've won 6 out of those 9. We're never going to see that again.
No.
Think about that.
That's what I'm saying.
More than it's 60% of Tom Brady's career. Well, he's been in the big games.
So if you're saying we're never going to see that again, do you just think the stars aligned, or do you think that there's something can be learned from this where someone else can say, you know what, I can replicate this?
It takes a very unselfish group of individuals that are trying to accomplish a goal, and the goal comes before their own selfish needs in order for that to happen, and that's why. So here's the mystery. I don't know if it's Belichick. I don't think it's Brady.
It's like the chicken or the egg.
It might be Rich Kraft.
So obviously he plays a role in it, but I mean,
is his name Rich?
Robert, whatever.
Okay. I didn't know.
Yeah,
Shows how much I know.
Kraft.
Yeah.
He plays a giant role in it, but I mean, back to your question, like how often do you get the best coach of all time, or arguably one of the best coaches?
Who's to say he's the best coach?
But he's one of the best coaches of all time.
Maybe Kraft. Hold on. Maybe Kraft. Because I've heard that Brady and Belichick hate each other. I heard they feud a lot. They don't.
I don't think that's true.
They had those rumors.
I don't know.
You don't have a team where the best player and the head coach hate each other, and there's cohesion in the locker room, and there's chemistry.
But he seems like he's got a much better relationship with Daniels. Yeah, he doesn't talk to Belichick during the game, but
Belichick's the defensive guy, and as part of a good leader, is just knowing your area of expertise and hiring other people for their areas of expertise and letting them run it, not telling them.
Delegating.
So
why would I tell someone
maybe
what
that's
to do?
why it works. Maybe it works because Brady and Belichick are completely separate, in the sense that Brady is working with, his name's Josh McDaniels.
Josh
McDaniels and Brady have a good relationship, and they're running the offense. And Belichick is running the defense. And certain game time decisions Belichick's involved in, but outside of that, it's laissez-faire. I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, maybe. I don't think that's it, though, because you hear stories about how Brady echoes the coaching staff's words. You hear how it's one, like, with the Patriots.
Do your job.
It's one unified message. And they've gotten to this point where like you were saying, kind of the players buy in. Everyone's bought in now. Like it wasn't like this in 2002 before they won their first Super Bowl. They now have players there who understand if you want to win, you do what they say. If you want to win, you take, ask for as much money as you want. That's your prerogative. But if you want to win, you take the
management having that philosophy, and then they only hire people who I don't want to say are subservient, like a dictatorship to that philosophy, who agree, who put winning championships above, And listen, you're talking. All these folks are rich anyway, so it's not like they're putting winning championships above money. It's just they're still doing very well.
I would argue. Listen. Their NFL contracts are notoriously the worst contracts in all sports, right? And they're risking the most while they're doing it.
Which is always crazy to me. Like, I don't know how, I don't know where the negotiation broke down for the players, because like it is the most profitable league there is. Like
that's probably
NFL
why
teams are worth the most.
Their labor is the cheapest. Think about it. In any business, if you want to add revenue to your bottom line tomorrow, you do it by cutting salaries or commissions to your salespeople.
Right. Not for the long run, though.
You either have to sell. Let's say you want to add $2 million to your net revenue in any business, the NFL, whatever. You could either sell $10 million more in ad dollars or product to net you the $2 million, which is a tall order, or you could just cut everyone back a point.
Well, the NFL is it's really such a team sport. I mean, basketball, there's 5 guys on the court. Baseball, everyone's playing a position, but baseball is such a long season that so much money comes in anyway. Yeah. Football is such a team sport. I mean, it's hard to really argue for personally a lot more money unless you're like a quarterback or really a star receiver, a star running back, or the best defensive player in the league. It's hard to argue for more money because you're kind of replaceable. There's so much involved into winning a football game. You have offense, you have defense, you have, it's tough to really make yourself worth that much.
A perfect example is like a running back on the Patriots. Like there's like 3 of them and they all do the same thing. Like
coming into this year, everyone's like the Patriots offense is going to suck. They're like, they have no one. I mean,
they didn't throw one
their
long
star
ball
receiver was
Super
Chris
Bowl.
Hogan.
They didn't need to.
Coming into the season.
Edelman's a beast. He's like a Welker of
he's just another cog in the wheel over there.
It's so crazy.
He's a good player, but like on any other team, he is not Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah, and these talks of him being in the I think he's an awesome player. These talks of him being in the Hall of Fame. I mean, come on, look at his stats. You can't. Why are you putting him in the Hall of Fame?
Because his postseason stats.
Yeah, well,
that's the only reason why.
I mean,
he's got like the second most receptions of all time, I think, in the postseason.
Yeah,
but still.
That's because he's part of that. He's good, but that's because he's part of a system that enables him to do that.
Yeah, I agree.
So does he deserve personally to be in the Hall of Fame?
Well, does Brady then with that argument?
Yes. Well, Brady is.
I mean, everyone. You could argue like Teddy Bruschi, right? Wasn't Teddy Bruschi? Does he deserve it? He was part of the system. I don't know. This is the whole thing. So I think in the end, it's the system. Everybody buys in, and there is absolutely no negotiating at all. And
I don't think the players want to negotiate.
No, they've gotten to the point where how dumb would you have to be? Like, how naive how naive would you have to be to walk into the Patriots locker room and go like, I think I know what to do better than these guys, or I think I know more about what play we should run than him.
And how do you ask for more money when you're a dynasty that's won 6 championships over the course of 19 years? How do you ask for money? How do you justify it? Like, hey, listen, you got to give me more money, or guess what? I'm going to leave, and you're not going to be as good. It's
especially when Tom Brady's
you're going to leave, and we're still a dynasty. We're going to be just fine.
When Tom Brady's taking salary reductions to make the team better, it's very hard to go
that's
into
leading
that.
by example. That's a good leader. That's someone. How are you going to argue for more when the leader of the team is taking it, right? So I don't like giving credit to anything on any one thing. I think there's so many variables that make up anything, and so it comes from Robert Kraft having that philosophy. It comes from Belichick, and it comes from Brady leading by example, and it comes from everyone else falling in line. So
I don't know, man. It's a great mystery. I think it could be Kraft though.
He's obviously, it's top down. Any organization, anything, business, life, whatever, it's top down. Like that'll trickle down. The tops, philosophies, how they run things.
And then you have like the Cleveland Browns who just can't fucking figure it out. To be quite honest, I mean, how do you have such a disparity in the same league? It just makes no sense.
It's like you have 32 businesses out there in the same. Well, think about it. Think about just business. Is there any industry where there's 32 businesses all in that industry that are successful? Like for instance, beer. Right? There's you got Budweiser and then whatever Coors or whatever the big ones are, Stella, Pick'em, Corona. There's in any industry, it's going to get because the NFL is structured the way it is, you're going to have 32. You have 32 corporations participating in the NFL. But of course, the good ones are going to rise to the top, and there's going to be ones that suffer. It's impossible to have 32 competitive teams.
Yeah.
In the same industry.
It's so wild. But let me ask you this: if those 32 teams had 32 crafts and Patriot systems,
it would force them all to be better. It would force them all to be. There would still.
Is it the system? That's what I'm saying.
You'd still have the best.
Couldn't have that,
if they take shit players or average players and they create Super Bowl teams with them, can that be replicated across the league?
No, it would evolve. You can't have 32. There's always going to be the best.
You can't have 32 dynasties like that. You can't have the same philosophy.
Well, that's the argument against the system, right? Is it the system? And if that system was replicated, can't you?
Well, it might not be easy to replicate that system, right? So it could be the system, but just because it's that system doesn't mean anyone could just be like, all right, I'm just going to use that system. It's not easy. It's like building a business, right? We're building a real estate business. So far, we're having success in doing that, but it's not like anyone can be like, all right, they did it, I'm just going to copy what they did and do it. There's a lot more that goes into it. There's so many little details along the way.
I think when you start, looking at the business side of it, I think when you start scaling and adding people to the organization, whatever that organization is, I think the most important thing is who you bring on.
100%.
I don't think you can just hire anybody.
100%.
This has me thinking about, so talking about the NFL 32 teams, the United States with the 50 states. So
or the 12 legislators in Nassau County.
I'm just thinking that. Why can't the United States be like, all right, what state is most successful? Let's just copy that system. It's the same question as the NFL. What team is most successful? Let's just copy that system. Let's just do what they're doing.
That's different because
it's drastically different. The demographics.
You go for instance, New York. You have upstate New York, which is a completely different culture and place than New York City, which is different than Long Island, which is different than there's this little spot on Long Island, like halfway through Suffolk County, and the North and South Fork, which is the sticks, and there's nothing there, and then the North and South Fork is a different world entirely. So I think that's a little different because in the NFL, it's the same players on the field. It's the same thing. It's just happening in a different place. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know.
Yeah, very different.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know, man. In business, though, I think getting back to that, I think it comes down to who you hire. I am a huge believer in the Tony Robbins. What's that test called?
The personality test?
Disc assessment?
Disc assessment, yes. Huge. I don't think I think people are who they are. And I think it's very hard to change who you are on a granular level. I think you will always default to who you are. Even if you're trying to be something different, you'll always default to something.
Yeah, I agree.
Something to your true form. So, for instance, like even me, you see it. I get into these projects and I'm completely consumed until the project is done. And if I don't stop, if I don't finish the project, it'll keep me up at night with things like the website and all that stuff that we're developing right now. I don't think there are a lot of people like that at their core. And if you tested the right people. And that's what the disc assessment is.
Well, I think so. Yes and no, because biologically you are who you are, But I also think people are who they are based on their experiences and just the situation. So I think over the course of someone's life, they change, right? You've at different stages in your life, you different value things. At one point, it might be money. At one point, it might be family. At one point, it might just be free time. And I think an example of that, we were talking about this before the podcast, is Randy Moss. He's on the Vikings. The guy couldn't be controlled. He had an ego, all this. But then he got to a point in his career where he was like, all right, if I want to win a championship, at a certain point in his career came where winning a championship became worth more than everything else, than ego and everything else. And then he went to the Pats, and he was a different player there. He fell in line, right? And so I think part of that is the Patriots saying, listen, this is our system. You're going to have to fall in line. And Brady as the leader being like, leading by example. But I think him as a person had to have changed. If he was the same person, it would have been the same mess that he was in Minnesota.
So the Tony Robbins, the idea of the DISC assessment, which is replicated through a lot of different, in a lot of different businesses, and one of them is the Gallup test, right? Is you have these certain personality traits, and I know the high D. I think D means driver. D means driver. So when you're a high D, you basically, like, the definition of a high D is someone who above all else will achieve and will accomplish certain things and will complete goals, and they'll get through it. Like, it's more important for this person to get through 200 calls a day than it is for them to do, like, that's priority number one. They will accomplish that. And then and they kind of put everything below that. Then you have people that are like more introspective and calculated, and they're measurable, and they like their statistics, and it's a different way of doing things. But to make a long story short, there's been studies that salespeople in particular, you typically want to hire high Ds.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Goal oriented, won't stop.
And anything else is usually not. Your success rate with those people will be less.
So the other side of the coin, so coming from where you came from, the other side of the coin was the last two corporations that I worked for in the national sales meetings, both of them, the CEO of the company looked out into the room and said, next year, I want a more diverse company. And their philosophy was, if we have people who are all similar, then we're leaving money on the table. I want people with different ideas, of different backgrounds, because they'll show us how to do things a different way that maybe we didn't see before. And there's no one way to skin a cat. And I'm not saying this is what I believe, but I'm saying this was their philosophy. There's no one way to skin a cat. So let's make this company as diverse as possible, because then we're getting all of the ideas, and we can incorporate all of that, versus one specific type of person where we're just getting that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I think different disc profiles fit different roles. If you're hiring, like, you can't have a high D I don't think you can have a high D who's a secretary.
Right.
You just can't. That person needs to be.
Well, they might be the best secretary ever.
Maybe. But that person's probably going to want.
They're going to aspire to more.
They're probably going to aspire to more. And that person, that you might want more of an analytical person, a data-driven person, someone who's detail-oriented, and it's different roles for different people and different profiles for different roles. But you have to identify what role deserves what profile. But as far as sales-driven people go, you need high Ds. That's what that is. So maybe that's a part of how the Pats do their thing, right? It's like we were talking about before: the offensive-minded people, the defensive-minded people, the leadership, how people fall in line. There's a lot of cogs in that machine. And
maybe the Pats do a personality assessment before they.
I wouldn't be surprised. I'm
sure a lot of professional sports teams do. Especially when they're drafting people.
Yeah, of course.
That's high capital they're spending.
Do they interview people?
Yes.
Yeah. So, like Tom Brady, when he was in the combine, they sat him down. They were like, "Hey, Tom, how you doing? Tell me about a time when blah blah blah."
Players are thinking about taking, especially in the higher rounds. They'll interview them. They'll give them
they definitely.
Their own tests.
College players who have been troubled. They drop in the draft because of issues like that. Definitely.
Interesting. So it's a business. It's no different. It's no
Right.
different.
Just different framework for the business because it's within the league.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the business is football.
Yeah. Interesting. Cool. All right, so let's get to. Anyone have anything else to add about that, by the way?
Just with the right people thing, the saying I like is it's not where the bus is heading, it's who's on the bus.
Ooh. Ooh.
I think that makes a big difference with, businesses and, sports organizations.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes a big difference.
So, Amazon might be pulling out of Long Island City.
Yeah?
That's wild, right?
So my initial thought, and I don't know too much about this, my initial thought it was very good to have a company like that come in. It's gonna, maybe there'll be some hardships for
local
infrastructure
residents.
or whatever initially, but ultimately it'll be a positive force of change. But then I read something that someone said we know what Amazon has done to the communities that's been in so far, and I don't know if that's just a random statement that has any validity to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder if communities that have had big companies come in I wonder if there's a good sample size of those that have actually suffered. I have no idea, but that one statement caught me by surprise because I said, maybe it would be good to look at that and what's happened.
So here's the argument, right? The argument is that Amazon is catching a lot of flack because New York is a very democratic state. They've gotten
$3 billion.
$3 billion, right? So
Incentives
you
or
have the corporation offered up to $3 billion in tax breaks in a dozen sites in the state. Amazon is also eligible for up to $1.3 billion in subsidies from 2 city programs. But
How much revenue is it going to bring in?
so here's the deal.
What's that estimated to be?
So here's the deal. And strictly from a real estate perspective, this would kind of like really suck if they didn't come, because you have 25,000 people with the average income being about $100,000, but there's big wigs there. So of those 25,000, even if it's only 2,500 with a lot of money, where are they going? They're going to Great Neck. They're going to Port Washington. They're taking their huge salaries.
Or Manhattan,
I think
Brooklyn,
if they have kids, they'll probably end up on the island.
in the suburbs, yes.
Yeah, right. So I think yes, they will end up in those areas in Queens, but if you want to go to the suburbs, you're coming to Western Nassau County on the North Shore, right by the LAE.
Mm-hmm.
So it's from a real estate perspective, it's really good. So selfishly, I want it to happen. I don't know, but here's the deal. I mean, 25,000 people buying properties. The prices in Long Island City are supposedly through the roof. There's another article here that said they were up like 20-something percent or 30-something percent, and sales are up 20-something percent, which is crazy because supposedly they haven't even signed a lease yet, so I don't even think they're here.
Yeah.
But people are already starting to buy.
They're trying to jump on it early.
Yeah, I mean, you know who's leading the charge here? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Against it.
Against it.
But what's her reasoning? Does she give a specific reason as to why?
Well, it's the same reason she gives for everything else. These people have money. Why are we giving them subsidies? Right? So, but that's not how business works, right?
Yeah.
So when your business crosses a certain threshold, right? When you're making, I think the number is 500 employees. When you have 500 employees or more, states will call you and create a reason for you to come to move your business to their state. Why? Because the payroll taxes, right? And this is why the tax laws and everything favor businesses, because they generate revenue for local municipalities and states and all that stuff. So they'll bid for your business because they get the payroll taxes, then people buy homes and they pay flip taxes and transfer taxes, and then they start going to the local restaurants.
Yeah, I was going to say the local business owners have to want this. How could you not? All those employees are going to need somewhere to eat, need somewhere to get their hair cut, need somewhere to shop, right? Somewhere to get breakfast, coffee, etc. As a local business owner, how could you not want this? It would be so good for business to have this influx of people. I mean, I have not studied the pros and cons of this. My initial feeling in my gut about this is Amazon coming is a good thing. Might there be, some things you have to figure out or some issues, whether it be infrastructure or otherwise? Sure, but I think ultimately it's going to be a positive force for change. I mean, how could you not want that much commerce coming to your community.
Yeah, it seems like a win-win.
Especially, you're right outside Manhattan, so if you think that's going to remain some like little local community forever, I mean, I think you're being a little naive. You're right outside the epicenter of the world when it comes to money and business and Manhattan. It's going to spread. It's going to geographically spread out to the boroughs. That's what happens.
It already has.
So you're fighting the inevitable, and I think it would be foolish to turn them away.
Yeah. I think what it did, I mean, I don't know, I'd have to see, like you said, what it did to the previous communities, but I think New York City is also a different animal.
Exactly.
I don't think New York City is going to get swallowed up by a business, regardless
No,
of how
but
big it is.
Google's already here. Everyone's already here.
I don't know Long Island City well enough, I guess, like as an individual part of New York City, but I don't know. I don't see it doing as much damage. But again, I don't know all the facts, so.
Yeah.
It also depends on who you're talking about.
It's going to be an interesting thing to see how it plays out. But the best thing that could happen is they come and they stay. So how about this? Wealthy buyers increasingly ditch their high tax states for Florida. Cuomo blames a $2.3 billion shortfall on the new tax law.
The SALT deductions?
The SALT deduction. So Cuomo said the new federal tax law, which caps the deduction for state and local taxes to $10,000, is the reason for the $2.3 billion state shortfall as New Yorkers increasingly head to Florida. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, passed in 2017, also limits the amount of mortgage interest that can be deducted on loans up to $750,000. Overall, the Sunshine State reported the highest level of net domestic migration between July 2017 and July of 2018, according to recently released U.S. Census data. New York and Illinois reported the biggest net losses. That's not good.
I mean, I'm sure part of it is the SALT deductions, but I think it's also...
How about this? Cuomo said someone in the top tax bracket in New York City who previously faced a combined tax rate of 45% would see that increase by 12% to more than 50%. A taxpayer in Florida would see no increase, probably would see a decrease, and Florida also has the advantage of no estate tax.
I think my opinion on this, I think America is so great because it is the United States, because you have all these states acting independently, and it's business. You have all these states acting independently, and it forces competition, right? So you have states who are, so you have to, in order to compete with other states, you have to make your state better, and ultimately that makes the whole better, versus a country that doesn't have states acting independently, that has one governing body or whatever it is. If they make a bad decision, that's it. You're done.
Yeah, you have nowhere you could go.
Yeah, right. By having the states able to act independently to a certain extent, obviously, it forces each state to make themselves better to compete with the other states, and that's what makes the whole so great. So I think, listen, for whatever reason, right? There's probably a million reasons. Like I said before, I hate blaming on any one thing. People are leaving New York and going to Florida. So guess what? New York's got to figure it out. They got to make themselves better, because if they don't, you're not going to be competitive.
Yeah, something's going to get repealed or figured out, because I mean, we even see it in the luxury market right now. The numbers are garbage.
Mm-hmm. They've been friends. It's been so soft for a while.
And a lot of it has to do with the salt deduction. And look, the bottom line is this, and I say this all the time: if you're a smart person and you are wealthy and you have the means to just get up and go, when there's a 12% disparity in what you can bring home every year, and as you become wealthier and wealthier, that becomes a greater and greater disparity, right? So you can't ignore it to a certain degree, right? I mean, even if you've laid down roots, wealthy people are mobile. They can hop on a private jet and go south.
Does New York have the most millionaires in the state, in the United States? California might be up there.
Like per capita or just in general?
No, just in general. What state has the most millionaires?
California's huge. Huge. I would have to think it's probably California.
I don't know.
I would have to agree with you, Ron, though. There's a breaking point. So while New York right now might be worried, they might be, we have Wall Street, we have Manhattan, we have more millionaires than any other state. If that's the case, I don't know, but they have to be up there, right? there's going to be a certain breaking point, to your point, where people are going to be like, listen, we're just not going to take this anymore. These other states are so attractive.
Or they just reorganize their affairs. They go, oh, you know what? I could just go to Florida for 181 days a year.
Primary residence will be
the biggest mistake would be thinking you're so great, no one's ever going to leave. You know, we have Manhattan that'll always bring some people.
You can't be ignorant to
complacent.
Yeah, you can't be ignorant to that stuff. But to that point, Trump's open to changing the SALT deduction provision. So,
wow.
Yeah, that would be a freaking home run. Yeah, supposedly it's being discussed that might be removed.
See, I like that. I like that he made a decision, and maybe it wasn't a good decision. Yeah. And he's saying, I'm open to changing it. I think, it'd be great if more people within leadership positions did that it can admit making a mistake and then correct it or change course. You don't have to stick to your guns 100% of the time on everything.
No, you shouldn't, actually. That's bad leadership.
You have to evolve. Yeah. So construction costs continue to climb in New York City. So this is pretty wild. For people around the country, and even on Long Island, the difference between doing a construction project here per square foot in the city, you don't realize how different it is. So if you build a house here on the island, it might cost you $200 a square foot, right? Somewhere in that ballpark, maybe $250, whatever.
Yeah, it depends, but yeah.
In the city, for office space, this is not residential space, which is more money. It's $575 per square foot in New York to build. And we've seen pre-war buildings, because we know people that are adjusters who actually place values on these things, that it could get almost as high as $1,000 a foot, depending upon what's going on. And a lot of that has to do with, a lot of people don't understand, is in a pre-war building, like a co-op building, let's say you're having a renovation done. The people who are doing the work, they can't show up till 10 o'clock because everyone's got to be out of the building before they come in.
Recently.
And they have to be out of the building by 3 o'clock.
And then how do they get they also have to get all the materials in and just the infrastructure.
It's all labor.
Handle that.
It's all labor.
Like on Long Island, if you're doing work to your house, you could have a pickup or a box truck or whatever come with the sheetrock and all this stuff, and you put it on the front lawn and then you use it. Manhattan, you can't do that. You can't just park in the street and then unload onto the sidewalk and take. It's just there's a lot that goes into it that makes it much more complex.
Yeah.
Logistically.
Yeah. So here's another interesting little article. In a more competitive residential landscape, brokers are hunting for new territory. So we're starting to see these mega teams like the Eklund Gomez team and other major teams play within different cities. So they're opening up offices in LA and they're going down to Miami and they're playing in different markets. Now, this is a good question. Is this a result of them just being so powerful they could do it, or is this just a change in the days of your neighborhood or city realtor, because the technology that is provided to us today to go do business, that we're able to cast much of a wider net and play between different cities because of things like the World Wide Web?
I don't think it's any different. It's just maybe on a smaller scale than, a national brokerage extending, like when Element first went to Miami,
Yeah, but in previous years, a real estate, first of all, so 10, 15, 20 years ago, they started with teams, and then teams before that were taboo. It was always a one-man show.
Right.
Then teams became a thing, right? And now these teams are expanding to different cities. So I think it's possible, and it could be done. Are they, the issue is, again, these people have to be hiring experts in that area.
You have to have good people locally that are always there. But I think it's logical, right? The teams you're talking about are teams that are selling $5, $10, $20 million properties. People who are buying those properties, they're buying properties. Yeah, they're buying properties in Miami, in LA, in Aspen, in New York, whatever, in London. Pick a place that crowd likes to go to. So if you have a relationship with this guy, if you're Frederick Eklund, you have a relationship with someone who bought a $20 million property in Manhattan, and then because you're hanging out with them, having lunch with them, whatever, that they're looking to buy a property in LA. It's like, why?
That's lost money.
Why would I refer them to someone? Why don't I just open up in LA and I can help them out in LA too? Now you have to justify that person. Listen, I know what I'm doing in LA. Right. That person might. I mean, obviously that person's smart. You would hope so if they have that kind of money. That they're going to say, well, maybe I should just use a local LA person that really knows the market. But that's where Frederick has to do a good job of getting the right people on board and, continuing to build his brand and expand. So I think it's logical.
So,
yeah, inevitable.
Douglas Elliman, this is pretty wild. Jesus. So, Douglas Elliman topped the Manhattan sales charts. They did 8.99 billion in sales. Usually, I think actually last year, Corcoran did more sales than Elliman. But usually they're somewhere neck and neck. Corcoran did 4.5.
They doubled
the number
them.
2?
As the number 2.
Wow.
Compass was 3 with 2.01.
This is the whole United States?
This is Manhattan.
Manhattan, okay.
Just Manhattan. That's insane.
I wonder how much of that was resale versus new development.
Well, new development is in the shit tank, so I'd have to think it's more resale. Right?
De Niro was one of the top teams, and he was mostly resale, right?
De Niro's one of the top teams.
He's mostly resale in Tribeca. I mean, he does some new development, but was it? Or he's like, when I say mostly, maybe it was half and half.
He's all downtown. I know that.
Tribeca,
mostly downtown. Mostly downtown.
Yeah, Dad built that up.
Yeah. But yeah, how sick is that? That's a huge piece of the pie.
Yeah.
That's a really... And agent count, Elliman has 1,999 agents. Corcoran has 1,320. So, but don't forget, I mean, of those 2,000 agents, there's probably 200 of them that are doing more than 2 deals a year. That's usually how that works. With that, Compass is not expanding to new markets this year. Seems they're slowing down, they're pumping the brakes. It's probably because the stock market took a little bit of a hit at the end of last year.
Now they got to start making some money.
And they got to start showing profits, which will be interesting.
They haven't shown any profit yet?
I don't even know how they're raising all that money, but their valuation. So Mike and I discussed this on a previous podcast. Dottie Herman bought her share of Douglas Elliman, which was, I forget what percentage share, but the valuation of the company was only like $150 million based on her buyout.
Yeah.
And their valuation on Wall Street was like $6 billion. And meanwhile, they don't do anywhere near what Douglas Elliman does, at least locally in the city. So none of it makes sense, and apparently they're not.
It's hype. Or perception.
They were giving crazy deals to agents. They're giving 100% commission for the first, 12 months.
They're just trying to pick the best talent.
Yeah, it's crazy. They did a lot of poaching.
It's smart.
How much money they've raised so far to build it? What the total is?
No, I think it was. I've heard, if I recall correctly, it was like $450 million here, $450 million.
Where does the valuation come from?
They're going to have to sell a lot of real estate to get that profitable.
I don't know where their valuation comes from or how they're selling it, but I think what their position is, they have these technologies in place that
do what?
I don't know.
At the end of the day, you have to sell real estate. So
yeah, and it's a relationship business, and really you're only as good as your agents. That's why agents in the end are actually becoming more powerful than the brokerages today, because
they're the brand, the agents of the brand, whereas the brokerage used to be.
Yeah, exactly. The brokerage used to pay the lease on the office front and do all that stuff and carry all those costs and take on the liability, and that was before agents can be more forward looking to the customer today because of the internet. So brokerages are losing their pull in the market, and agents are kind of taking over. That's why commission cuts have gotten so much higher on the agent side than they were previously. So it's good business to be in. But
guys, I'm going to let you finish up this podcast without me. I have to get to an inspection for $1 million house. We'll hopefully be putting into contract soon.
Yes.
At 10 a.m. So
well, we're wrapping up anyway. We're wrapping up anyway. All right, guys. If you want to get in touch with us, you could always give us a call. Our number here in the office is 516-888-9711. Our email is info@pl-team.com. That's info@pl-team.com. If you're looking to buy or sell a home this year in the upcoming market of 2019, give us reach out to us. We'd be happy to come meet you and walk you through some good stuff. John, anything to add?
Hope you enjoyed.
All right, boys. Take care. See you next time.